Hey guys, welcome to another Funding Guide episode, and today I'm going to be talking about spell tracing and starforcing. Just to give you guys a little bit of background as to what this system is, I know many of you already know what it is because it is one of the most staple means of upgrading in MapleStory and progression. Spell tracing was introduced into the game about mid to late 2014, and Starforce came roughly at the end of 2014. And what these systems were intended to do was to provide a much more streamlined and a simplified version of upgrading in MapleStory. To everyone who was here back in the late 2014 and before, and it still applies a little bit now, the old way to increase the item's equipment or to upgrade them was to add scrolls to the item, which had a chance of adding extra stats to the equipment. And you still see that to a degree today with things like Prime Scrolls or Miracle Scrolls, but not so much anymore because they were replaced with spell tracing. Additionally, back then, to increase the star count of the item or quote-unquote equipment enhancing, you had to use equipment enhancement scrolls or advanced equipment enhancement scrolls, which often were very costly methods because you always had to apply a protection scroll or a shielding ward to the item before you enhanced it because there's a chance of it blowing up if it fails. Actually, not a chance, rather it guarantees that it's going to explode, so it was a very costly method. But with spell tracing and Starforce, Nexon has made it easier for not only funded players but unfunded players alike to upgrade their equipment in a much more reliable way without having to run the risk of either losing the equipment overall or investing way too many resources into the equipment for very little gain. Since then, it's been a lot easier to upgrade your gear, as well as with the addition of the 25-star update recently, I thought maybe it would be a good idea to remake the Starforce and spell tracing guide that I made a long time ago back on Smartboard to get you guys a bit more updated on how you want to do it. I'm going to be talking about what the system actually does, how to use it, and also my recommendations for how you want to go ahead and work on gearing your character, because this is a funding guide, so I'm going to explain how it pertains to you. If you have any more questions, once again, be free to leave it in the comment section below after you watch this video, but I should be able to cover everything. Although if I do forget something, make sure you let me know. But let's get right into it. First things first, to access the upgrading UI, you want to press the item to open your item inventory, and you see this red hammer icon right here. Click that. We'll open something called Equipment Enchantment, and you just gotta place any equipment in here to upgrade them. Now, most items, they come with a set amount of slots that you can use to increase it. As you see, if you take a look at the Reinforced Engraved Golix belt, there it says Remaining Enhancements 3, which means you can increase the stats on this equipment 3 times. You can also increase the number of total enhancements on an item by up to 2 with a golden hammer. As you can see, there's something that says Hammers Applied 0. If you find a golden hammer, do I have one? I don't think I do. Go and double check. Oh, there's right here. Golden hammers. These are pretty cheap in the auction house depending on what world you're in. In Windia, I think they're about 20 mil each. Sometimes they get very expensive, like up to 30 or 40. Sometimes they go down to 10 or 5. It's all about supply and demand. Let's go ahead and take these out. And there are a few other scrolls I want to explain to you that will be important for helping you guys out with upgrading. So for now, let's just start off with the golden hammer slots. So when you take a golden hammer and you apply it onto an item that has hammer applied 0, it has a 50% chance, or 100, to increase the total amount of slots on your equipment by 1. If it passes, it has like a little circling effect, and if it fails, nothing happens, it doesn't work. Now, you see the total remaining enhancements goes up to 4. If the hammer fails, the total amount of enhancements you can get will still increase by 1. However, you'll lose that slot as if it was a failed scroll, so you will have to clean slate it back, which I'll explain a little bit later. But up to 2 hammers can be applied on an item, and I just want to show you guys how that works. So now the actual way to do it, if you put an item into the enhancement window, you'll be granted an option to use a certain kind of scroll. To use these scrolls, you require spell traces, which most of the time are purchased from either the auction house or the Silent Crusade coin shop, or if you were to pick it up yourself. It looks like this. They're very common. You come across them quite easily. You can also get them from the surprise missions, as well as a couple of other ways, such as Monster Parts Enhancement box. Now, there are a total of up to 4 ways that you can enhance an item in terms of percentage. There's 100, there's 70, 30, and if you were to go ahead and enhance a weapon, like let's say this, it would go down to 15%. Now, spell tracing is affected by diligence. For those of you who are unaware, diligence provides a flat bonus to the scroll success chance of a scroll including spell traces, but it does not apply to special scrolls like enhancements or equipment enhancement scrolls or clean slate scrolls. However, it does apply to spell traces. So if you have a 10 level 100 diligence, it gives 70% turns to 80, 30 turns to 40, and 15 turns to 25. It is in your best interest to get diligence up to level 100 as fast as possible. You can do this most of the time by trait boost potions in events, or just by getting a whole bunch of trait items that you can possibly come across, especially during the Monday traits, I believe. That is the Monster Park day. I'm going to show you guys right now, the lower the success chance of the item, the more spell traces it costs. So if you select 100%, it requires 300, 70 requires 390, so on and so forth. There are also a few other things you can select here. There's a 30% innocent scroll that you can use, which costs usually about 5,000 spell traces. Pure clean slate scroll, which is the regular clean slate scroll, but it costs 2,000 spell traces. And then the arc innocent scroll, which is 10,000. And the way arc innocent scroll works is it actually resets the scrolling slots on your equipment without resetting the enhancements. In other words, it takes away only the stats that it got from scrolling the item or spell tracing the item, but it maintains the stars that it has. So if it's a 12-star item, it keeps the 12 stars. Although no one really uses this just because you could just use a regular equipment enhancement scroll, and Starforcing is pretty cheap to begin with. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and I guess quickly spell trace an item just to get it over with. I think I'll use this one just to save money. Now my recommendation is if you want to go for like endgame, the best recommendation is to go for 15%. If you're looking to have just decently respectable gear without having to invest too many resources, you can go for 70%. It's almost never recommended to go for 100% just because it just does not provide you as much benefit as a 70% or 30% can. There's also spell trace fever time that next on hosts here and there that turns 70% into a 95% chance of passing, 30% into 55 or 45%, and then 15% becomes 25%, and that factors in with diligence. There's also one more thing. If you're part of a guild that has guild skills unlocked, there are 3 skills that pertain to working on enhancements. So the first one is Enhancement Mastery, which just increases the regular scroll and spell trace success chance by 4%. And then you have Upgrade Salvation, which gives it a chance to clean slate itself of 4% every time something fails. This actually can happen a lot more than you might think. And then Item Salvation is if the item has a chance of being destroyed, there's a 4% chance that it wouldn't be, but no one trusts this just because you would, it's just you don't want to blow up the item. But anyways, I'm going to go ahead and quickly enhance this, and I'll get back to you guys in a sec. Okay, now after you burn all the remaining possible slots on the item, you will get transferred over to the Starforce section, in which you can then increase the item's star count. As you can see right here, the Dragon Crate has a max star rating of 10. We're going to go ahead and show you how it works. There is a system called Star Catching, which gives you a 4.5 multiplicative % chance of increasing the item's success chance. So as you see right here, it's 95%. If you don't disable the Star Catching and you click Enhance, it will play a small mini game in which there's a star that's going to go left and right at various speeds in a area that you want to get it to stop in. You can either click the stop button or press the spacebar, and it increases the chance of the item success rate by 4.5% chance multiplicatively, meaning it's 4.5% chance of 90%, which means it's 90 times, 90 times 1.045. So it's not that significant, but if you believe the placebo effect to be in your favor, then you can. Most of the time people do not do star catching unless it's for like a very important slot like the 15 star or the 20 star or 22 star, just because it is definitely very time consuming, and most people would rather just simply just click the button right over here and just set up an auto clicker or something and keep doing it like that. What enhancements do is that there are a bunch of different situations to it, but I'll give you the rundown for the weapon anyway. You'll notice right here there are 4 stars added to the item. Enhancements increase the item's stats based on the level, or if you're using a weapon, it bases it on its current weapon attack. So recommendation for weapons is to actually scroll all the way, make sure it's perfected before you enhance. You can enhance without using all of the slots up. However, a lot of people prefer to wait until the item is fully finished with scrolling before they enhance, just because if you want to reset it, then you will lose your enhancements as well. So if you were to work on, let's say, a weapon, it's better if you get all of your item slots done first, the plus 10, before you start enhancing, because you may miss out on certain bonuses. This only applies to weapons. If you were to enhance anything else, it doesn't matter if it's completed or not. Like let's say I decide to enhance a Superior Engraved Gollux pendant for only plus 5, and then I decide to Starforce it right there, I can still get the 3 slots back and it will not change the overall outcome of the item. But for weapons like Katara, Dagger, Staff, Sword, Axe, what have you, those do need to be finished before you enhance them, otherwise you will permanently lose out on stats because they scale based on the item's current attack. Anyways, let's go back into here. The enhancement, or the strength of the enhancement, will increase depending on how many stars there are, so we're currently going from 4 to 5, and if we failed that, okay. Go ahead and keep going. Now you'll notice from 5 to 6 it actually turned from plus 2 to plus 3, plus 15, and so on and so forth. You continue going up to about 10 stars, and an item can go, depending on what level it is, there will be a bunch of information in the description below in case you guys want a more detailed description of enhancement, but most items can go up to 25 stars. The requirement for that item to be able to go to 25 stars is level 140 and above. Technically 138, but there's no item that is level 138. items that are at 130 will go up to 20 stars, and items that are at 120 will only go up to 15 stars, whereas the rest will just stay at wherever star they were at before. Now, because of how risky it is, I don't really want to show you how it works with the item that goes up to 20 stars or 25 stars, but your enhancements from 0 to 15 stars, apart from the weapon, are relatively small. It's just like a couple more stats of whatever luck, dex, strength, int, whichever one you're using. It's just a minute increase. However, if you have an item at 15 stars and above, which I'll try to see if I can show you, I'll use this for now. If you go from 15 stars and plus, you can gain much more stat from the item. However, the higher you increase your stars enhancements, the chance of it being destroyed upon failure increases as well. So from 12 to 13 stars, it goes up to 0.7. From 13 to 14, I think it also is 0.7. Oh no, it is 1.4. From 14 to 15, it is 1.4. From 15 to 17, it is 2.1. And then from 17 to 20, it's 2.8. And then from 21 to 22, or 21 to 23, it is 7%. And then so on and so forth. It continues. I think it stays at 7% all the way up until 25 stars. So while the strength of the upgrade increases, as you can see right here, 18 star to 19 star will give you 10 attack, magic attack, and 11 all stats, the chance of the item failing as well as the chance of the item being destroyed will increase. Now, unlike items blowing up from scrolling, such as an Enhancement scroll, which I'll try to see if I can find. Let me see if I can get one. Take an Enhancement scroll. The item is destroyed upon failure. That item will permanently be erased from the game. However, if you blow up an item by means of Starforcing, it will leave behind a trace right here. This is basically the item's spirit that gets left behind. You cannot equip it, however, the item's stats and enhancement up to 12 stars as well as potential will remain intact, which means if you have a spare copy of the item, like if I have the spare Amenozume's epaulet, you can put that onto the trace and then it will basically revive the item, which is a very nice quality of life change that Nexon added so that you don't lose the item forever, because that way it would just be no one would want to have to enhance the item, because it would just be if you were to lose it forever, that would suck. Now, some items are obviously easily replaceable, like Chaos or Abyss gear. You come across them all the time, they're a dime a dozen, but items such as, let's say, a arcane weapon are very, very expensive to replace, or let's say a tyrant. Well, tyrants, they only go to 15 stars, so they don't really count, but like Superior Gollux gear, or even Sweetwater, or even the Meister ring, those are very, very difficult to replace, so therefore you would only want to bring up to 7 stars. There is another feature in Starforcing called Safeguard. From Starforce Enhancement levels 12 to 17 actually, they just forgot to update that, you can protect your item. In other words, by paying a much heftier price, you can prevent that item from being destroyed. However, it still may pass or fail depending on if it works or not. Starforcing protection becomes very, very expensive. I don't think I have anything in particular right now that is 12 stars or more. Do I? I don't think I do. Alright, we do. We have something like here. So right now, it is 9 mil. By the way, if you have an MVP, you actually can spend less meso to enhance an item, which I guess that's another pay-to-win feature to MVP in MapleStory. If you apply Safeguard, it increases the price of the item drastically. The higher the stars, the higher chance the Safeguard is going to be. So it will be much more expensive for you to have to Safeguard, however, it removes the chance of you destroying the item. So a lot of people, what they'll do for items that can be very difficult to replace, like arcane gear, or even items that you can only have one copy of, well, Sengoku you can get multiple, but it's a rare event. They would only bring it up to 17 stars because you can Safeguard all the way up to 17, because after 17 you have to just YOLO it the rest of the way. But for items that you can easily replace, like Chaos or Abyss gear, you can easily replace it right away, which means people are less reserved against going to 22 stars on, let's say, a CRA hat as opposed to an arcane weapon. Anyways, I think it was a bit all over the place in terms of my explanation, but just the overall TLDR is that spell tracing allows you to scroll your item very effectively, and then Starforce allows you to enhance the item even further to make it even stronger. And a Starforced item is much, much more powerful than an unstarforced item. Even if you were to bring it up to, let's say, only about 17 or 18 stars, it's still very powerful. Take for instance the 12-star Sweetwater Monocle that's prime scrolled. It only goes up to 111 all stat, but if you were to have a 21-star Sweetwater Monocle, the stats would then go up to almost 200 all stat and 75 attack and magic attack. So it is expensive. Starforcing becomes very expensive and it's a huge meso sink. It can be a very, very essential benefit to your character because the enhancements become exponential. Like you have basically items that are equally as powerful, if not more powerful, than a weapon itself. There are just two more things that I want to go over before we finish off the video, and that is if you were ever to fail a item by spell tracing, to be able to win that slot back, there are two ways to do it. You can either use a Innocent Scroll, which I think is in here. The Innocent Scroll will essentially reset all stats on an item. If you were to use it on an item that's been currently scrolled, like let's say the Dragon Krata, it has a chance to completely reset the item. There you go, now it's back to normal, which means you can have another shot at it. However, another way you can do it is by using clean slate scrolls. Clean slate scrolls have a 10% chance, or 5 or 20%, doesn't matter really whichever scroll you use. Most people recommend 10%. It has a 10% chance to restore an previously lost upgrade slot. So if you were to take for example, do I have an item that isn't perfected? Like say the solid engraved Gauntlet's belt, if I were to use the clean slate scroll, I can earn back the slots that I lost on the item, which means that if you were to, let's say, pass, 6 out of 7, you won't be like, oh, I can never get that last slot. You can get that last slot back, it just may be a little bit more expensive. You have to use clean slate scrolls. And that's how a lot of people are able to get perfected items, you know, +8, +6, +4, +3, +10, +8, +8, so on and so forth, is not because they got lucky and passed every single one in one shot, or maybe they did. It's because they use clean slate scrolls to get the slots that they lost back so that they could very slowly perfect their item. But yeah, I did ramble a little bit. I didn't really follow a script on this video. I wanted to keep it as natural as I possibly could. Once again though, if you guys have any more questions, be sure to let me know in the comment section below. In terms of best in slot equipment, I have a video coming out for the future, but that is a very, very long video, so I want to take my time on it. I just wanted to make an updated video for spell tracing and starforcing because, as you know, the 25-star update came out and a lot of people have been going nuts about it. I hope this was insightful for you guys, but for now, I will see you in the next video. Take care.